Wow, I'm really green today. Look at the maybe the green light is a little too close. I'm exaggerating a bit. Relax, Metatron with a green light. Hey, noble ones and noble academics, welcome to my channel. So today I wanted to check out a video from the channel Language Jones, and it's a channel with 144,000 subscribers, and I think this is a good channel mostly because, look at his about. This is a place for all things language, insights from linguistics, language learning tips and facts from linguistics that might flip what you thought you knew about language on its head. I draw my background as a PhD, so this guy has a PhD in linguistics. Now, I respect that very much. I like listening to pros speak, of course, and interestingly enough, social linguistics was a very nice class that I took, of course, at university when I was studying for my degree. And although then again, he has a PhD in social linguistics, for me it was just like an extra module, so just like 4 formative credits as opposed to the 8 credits that I took in general linguistics. But still, it was fascinating. So I'm actually really interested to check this channel out. Now, the video in question that we're going to review is called Exposing Fake Polyglots. I really like this guy. Warning signs and red flags. So, of course, I myself am going to embark on a holy crusade against the fake polyglots, because that's one thing that annoys me very much. And honestly, just by looking at this face right now, I know for a fact it annoys him as much as it annoys me. So without further ado, let's check him out. Let's see what he's got to say.
I originally wasn't going to make this video, but I feel compelled to, because I'm mad. You see, I made a video a while ago that went whatever the equivalent of viral is for linguistics content. If you don't know me, I'm Dr. Taylor Jones. I have a PhD in linguistics from the University of Pennsylvania, the best of the other Ivies, and I make humorous, flippant, some would even say glib YouTube content about linguistics and language learning. It may be silly, but it's always accurate and backed by peer-reviewed empirical research.
And that I appreciate, of course.
Anyway, in my baby viral video, I gave 10 sort of tongue-in-cheek tips for faking being an online polyglot. I called out a few YouTubers, but not by name, who I think
You should have called them out by name, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call each and every single one by name.
Are charlatans, snake oil salesmen. As my channel has grown, so have theirs, and their viewership has far surpassed mine. I'm not mad about that. What I'm mad about is that some of them are...
Honestly, I think you are mad about that, rightly so, because if you're a professional... Now, I don't know if he's only about linguistics or if he actually speaks multiple languages. I don't know. If it's both, I absolutely understand, because imagine you are someone who reached fluency in multiple languages, which takes a monumental amount of time, speaking from experience, of course, and then you also get a PhD in linguistics, and then these frauds that don't speak any language but pretend to speak 50 come out and get more views than you, more subscribers. Of course you're mad, it makes you annoyed, and I absolutely understand that, so I'm with this guy.
Are literally using all 10 of my tips and getting away with it.
Oh no.
One has even had the audacity to have his assistant send me an email asking if I would interview him on my channel and bask in the magnificent glory of a man who claims to speak over 50 languages. I'm sorry, did I say 50? I went back when fact-checking my script, and the email says, and I quote, 100 languages conversationally and 12 languages fluently.
Nonsense.
No, you don't. This is
Exactly. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It's just one of those sensationalistic claims just to attract those people that unfortunately will fall for it and think, wow, this guy is incredible. What a genius. And it's all a fraud. It's all a facade. It's fake. They don't speak any. Maybe they speak 2. The second one mildly conversationally, and then everything else is fake. Believe it or not, I received a couple of those emails myself for my main channel, not for this one. And someone did say that, oh, would you like the honor? Would you like the honor to interview me because I speak this amount of language? I'm like, do you know who you're talking to? Not because I'm the shit, okay, and that's all I'm saying. But do you know who you're talking to? Because I'm the guy who hates the likes of you. Thus, you completely misread the room here. There is that. Also because I'll expose them. Like if someone said that, you know what, next time I'm going to say, yes, what languages do you speak? And when they say, oh, I speak Italian, Japanese, Mandarin, oh, I'm going to be so ready. The moment they do that and we hit record, I'm going to start speaking those languages, whatever language that I know that I can double check. If they claim to speak a language I don't know, I'll ambush them with a native of that language and we'll destroy them, record it all and put it out. Oh, I'm so going to do it.
Unacceptable. The original video is supposed to be funny and not really a how-to. But I realized I left a lot out, especially if you don't want to be a huckster. Suppose you don't want to fake it, you want to spot a fraud. Aha! So that's what we're doing today. I'm going to equip you with some tools to know what to look for to determine if things maybe aren't adding up. To 112. I'm Dr. Taylor Jones, and I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. And this is Language Jones.
Good stuff. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's join forces, man.
This week's video is sponsored by my sense of righteous indignation. People are misrepresenting themselves on the internet, and that's not right.
Righteous indignation, that is the expression actually that I wanted to convey. That was what I wanted to convey when I said that you were right being mad about it.
There's not a sponsor, but if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so right here on YouTube with super thanks and super chat. Or you can head over to patreon.com/languagejones and become a patron. The more patrons I have, the more certain I am to be able to pay the mortgage. But my promise to you is that I will never accept sponsorship from BetterHelp. Now on to unmasking confidence men. Some people have a bullshit meter. I have a bullshit Geiger counter. And these are the things that make it ping. 1. Sheer numbers.
Yeah.
One internet polyglot recently claimed he would explain how he learns any language in 24 hours.
Yes.
Another claims to speak
That's
over
nonsense.
100 languages. Really? Let's do some math here, since linguistics is...
That's just shock factor. That is just shock factor. I'm interested in the maths he's going to do with linguistics and his knowledge. With that being said, yeah, it's just shock factor, because then it's going to give the illusion that, oh, if this guy did it, he must know some secret source that I don't know. And then maybe I will be able to learn a language in freaking 3 days, which is, of course, it's insane. But you would think that that's logically obvious, that it's nonsense, just as a matter of deductive logic. But no, people are desperate when it comes to language learning, because it takes a lot of time and effort.
Basically just math masquerading as a humanity anyway. I'm an American, so I'll take the U.S. State Department's stats here. They divide languages into 4 categories, where 1 is the easiest and 4 is the hardest for a native English speaker. Category 1 languages include languages like Dutch, which is English spoken silly. It is mijn kopje koffie. It is een boek. French, which is the source of all fancy English like circumnavigation or charcuterie or je ne sais quoi or toodles. Yes, really. Or Spanish, which is the language you hear in America when you go outside. Category 2 includes languages like German or Swahili. Category 3 has languages like Albanian, Amharic, Armenian, and Azerbaijani, all the way down to Ukrainian, Urdu, Uzbek, and Vietnamese. Category 4 has super hard languages,
Japanese,
which includes Arabic, Japanese, and a handful of others. I'm assuming Zulu is there. They have over 75 years of experience getting people ready to be diplomats and spies and stuff, and they know how long this stuff takes.
Yeah.
Category 1 languages take between 600 and 750 class hours to become proficient.
Of course, these are averages, let's keep in mind.
That's not self-study, and that's assuming homework. And proficient is a 3 on the Interagency Language Roundtable scale. The scale goes to 5 in increments of 1/2 starting at 0. So let's be generous and assume...
I usually don't like, I mean, I know where he's going with this, and he's absolutely right. I usually am not a huge fan of how many hours of work, of classroom study does it take to reach fluency or conversational level, like imagine like a B2, let's say, level between B1 and B2 level in a language. I'm not a huge fan of that, because it's a little bit confusing, or and even misleading, if you will, because you can put that exact number of hours and still not reach fluency unless you have actual interaction with natives, having conversation, talking, and of course moving to the country, particularly after you have a solid base, but then you move to the country is going to increase that level of improvement exponentially. Whereas you can literally do the class hours and just go to school and still not reach fluency at all, because you're not taking advantage of the most effective way to learn a language, which is to speak it. I'm not saying that that's what he's saying, of course. I'm just saying that's why usually I find the number of hours averages not really helpful at anything but delineating the difference of difficulty between one language and the other. That's really what that thing is all about.
Assume a claim that you speak a language is the low level of proficiency. And let's assume that you're a super genius, so you don't need 750 hours, you can do it in 600. And let's assume you're a super duper genius and you don't need real life contact with actual speakers. You can just learn from your flashcard app that gives you
not gonna happen.
Random sentences in your target language and teaches you no grammar. That's still, let's see, if we do the math, 50 languages times 600 hours is 30,000 hours.
Right.
Let's say you dedicate 8 hours a day to language study because you don't have a job and you're an independently wealthy super duper genius.
Or a language student, let's be fair, because when I was at university focusing mostly on languages and history, but at that point I really wanted to get fluent in Japanese, I wanted to get fluent in English, and to be honest, that's all I did. That's literally all I did. I would go home, prepare for my history exams when it was the case, but when it wasn't history or literature, that's really all I did from morning to evening, full-time student. But yeah.
That's still 3,750 days. So obviously, you're a highly motivated, independently wealthy, super duper genius, and you take no days off. That's 10 years. 100 languages, that's 20 years.
Yeah, no, it's impossible.
And that's
He's right.
that you can come up with 50 languages like Dutch and Swedish and Danish that are related to English and related to each other. Category 3 languages, ones with significant linguistic and cultural differences but not super hard, take approximately 1,100 hours to get passably okay at, and that's most languages. That's 55,000 hours or almost 19 years of full-time 8-hour-a-day study, or 38 years for 100 languages. That math ain't mathin', and that's if you don't ever need to go back and review anything that you've already learned.
Okay, so his point is clearly correct, obviously. He's absolutely right. The point is very valid. Do keep in mind, however, that I would say forget the number of hours. If you're trying to learn a language, particularly it's one that is relatively close to yours. I'm a native Italian speaker and I want to get fluent in Spanish. I want to say a few months just to have a basic idea of how the grammar functions and what you might have in terms of differences between Italian and Spanish, get a very basic vocabulary, and then I move to Spain and I spend a year in Spain, I'll get fluent. Of course, if what I want to learn is Mandarin Chinese, then that's going to be a lot harder. How much time am I going to spend into the writing system alone? All of that has to be taken into consideration. But once again, reach a decent basis, maybe spend a year, maybe even 2 years, but then move to the country. It's going to be a lot faster than spend a year in the country, even 6 months if you have a very solid basis and you have a lot of interaction with the natives, maybe even live with natives, perhaps even have a relationship with a native. Oh, you're going to get to conversation, not fluency, but you'll get to conversation level. And then you can reach fluency a lot faster if you spend time with the natives. So that is important to underline here.
So the first language you learned 20 years ago needs no further practice. Now, learning hello and a few pleasantries in 50 languages, that can be done in the span of a week, but that's not what anybody means by speaking a language. 2, how do they talk? Do they only ever talk about learning languages and themselves? One thing I pay attention for is intermediate and advanced grammar. This varies by language, but I can give you a few examples. For French...
And even pronunciation, because particularly if it's like French, if it's Spanish, maybe they can get to a passable pronunciation, although oftentimes you'll be like, yeah, but this guy's not fluent. But then again, with Mandarin, good luck doing the tones unless you are trained. And what I mean by that is that even if you're memorizing a few sentences and you say these things correctly, but grammatically speaking, that's why I'm saying he's focusing a lot on the grammar, but the grammar can be bypassed if they memorize the sentences. What they can't bypass is the fact that they haven't got a clue what those sounds mean. They don't know when a word naturally ends and when a word naturally begins. Oftentimes they will not break, they won't put pauses that make sense, like the one I just did now in English. Secondly, their tones will be all over the place. And you could be like, yeah, but what if they listen to it and try to repeat it? It doesn't matter. Their third tone is going to sound like shit because that takes a monumental amount of time to actually get it right. And even the other tones will be a lot of very subtle nuances that unless you're trained, you won't be able to hear the difference between how nasalized the N versus the NG are supposed to be, the differences between D and T, the aspiration. Yeah, you can't do all of that. That's like months and years of work with language coaches and listening to natives speak that you cannot bypass, which is why I'm saying grammar, sure, but grammar can be faked. But those, particularly in tonal languages or even Japanese, which is pitch-based and not stress-based, you can tell.
If you're going to say something in the future, everything is future. So you wouldn't say, when I am in France, I will eat 1,000,000 baguettes. You would have to say the equivalent of, when I will be in France, I will eat 1,000,000 baguettes.
Right.
This is a subtle difference, and while it's not hard, it really messes up native English speakers, and it takes time to learn.
One thing about that, though, you have to be careful between conversational and formal speech. Because, for instance, I'm not sure about French, but in my language, in Italian, we absolutely have a future tense. So if I want to say, tomorrow I'm eating out with my friends, or tomorrow I will eat with my friends, then mangerò rather than mangiare, mangio. Mangio is I eat, mangerò is the future. But a lot of the times Italian native speakers are lazy and just say domani mangio rather than domani mangerò, which is the correct way. But they're still native speakers. So if I hear a non-native saying domani mangio una pizza, I don't automatically assume this guy doesn't know grammar, so his Italian must be bad, because no, maybe he just learned it from everyday. I do it too, and I'm a language guy, but I do it because when I'm speaking to my dad, I don't care about using the proper future tense in every single situation. I speak naturally, like people do. But if I'm giving a public talk or I'm making a video on YouTube about Italian linguistics, for instance, then I will use the correct future tense when it's supposed to be used. I'm not sure if that's how it works in French. His point might still be valid with French, but I just wanted to underline not all Romance languages do that consistently.
Similarly, more complex sentences with subordinate clauses require you to learn the subjunctive. And anything non-veridical, that is hypotheticals, subjunctive modality, conditionals, and so on, is often more tricky. So even if you don't know the language they're claiming to speak, does the translation indicate that they're saying things like, I wish I had had the opportunity to do thus and such, and if I ever go back to n'importe où, I will do so? Or is it all, I think n'importe quelle language is beautiful?
Yeah,
basically, are you hearing things like, I want to X, Y, and Z, or are you hearing things like, before I left n'importe où, I wish I had had the opportunity to X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, exactly. That sentence, the simple sentence you just said, I learned it in my, I want to say, first week of Mandarin at university. It was very easy, so you don't need to be fluent to say a sentence like that. I want to go to Beijing. 我要去北京. Anyone can do that. I mean, apart from the tones. But maybe using other expression like adding 参观 at the end to mean visit. It's a little better, but yeah, absolutely. If someone says they are fluent, then we need to see something a bit harder than whatever the heck basic sentence you would learn in the first week. So yeah, I agree with him. So far, this is actually a pretty nice video. I would rather encourage you to go finish it up with the creator. I'll put a link in the description so you can go finish up the video and give him the views that he deserves. But all in all, there is one last thing that I wanted to say, and this is going to be my last point. All of these red flags and how to find the signs, the sort of pattern recognition, if you will, when it comes to fake polyglots, it's excellent advice. He did a very good job, so thank you, Language Jones. But there is one more thing that you can do. It doesn't always work because unfortunately they usually shy away from it, but there is something you can do. Whenever there is one of these super wow, genius guys, polyglots, tell them to go live. Tell them to prove it live. That's what I would do with me, for instance. English is my second language. I think I'm pretty fluent with it. Not perfect, of course. Perfect is another red flag, to be honest. When the big white guy uses perfect Mandarin, yeah, remove perfect right there. What have you. But yeah, my English is not perfect, but I'm fluent. I'm confident enough that I can have, of course, make content and have a conversation without having to script it or prepare it beforehand. And I'm confident that I understand anything an English speaker will say, unless they use extremely technical language on a field that I wouldn't understand even in my first language. That's pretty much where I am. So if anyone's like, no, I think Metatron is just memorizing stuff, well, let's go live and let's have a conversation for half an hour. That proves it. And you can do that with my Japanese. I would absolutely do it in Japanese, no problem. With Mandarin, I could only do it up to a conversational level, but kind of intermediate. So if someone speaks too fast or someone speaks in a way that it's outside my range of vocabulary, if you will, I might not be able to understand. But as long as I'm upfront with it, then it's great. And of course, what he's saying here is instead, no, people say they're fluent. People say they speak these languages, most likely only know a sentence or two, and it's really, really cringe. So when you spot a polyglot like that, maybe you have a channel and you want to expose them, and I will. I'll tell them, okay, let's go live. Let's go live and speak Japanese. Let's see what you can do. And they either won't do it because, of course, they know they can't sustain it, or if they even try, then they will fail miserably because they'll try and use their pre-created sentences, but then I can easily circumvent that and sort of expand, and then they'll panic. They won't understand, or they'll pretend to understand. They'll smile when they're not supposed to. They will say yes to something that wasn't a yes or no question, and boom, done. And some of these people will fall for it because they are overconfident. They think, I know, I can do it because I memorized a couple of sentences. Yeah, it's not going to work, mate. It's not going to work. And of course, doing it in Italian and whatnot. Anyways, very cool video. Loved it. I hope you enjoyed the reaction and the expansion that I provided, the extra content. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.